Jeff Ogilvy survives wing foot.
Now the moment Aaron Baddeley has waited for.
Curry Webb is the 5-time Australian Open champion.
Golf at its best by one of the best in golf, Peter Thompson.
Stand in front of a crowd like this today and win the PGA Championship is pretty special.
He's done it at last. Greg Norman.
Matt Jones gets his name on the Stonehaven Cup.
Leishman to 11 under. Now we've got a new leader, kids.
There it is! Adam Scott. A life changer. Coming up next, you have unrestricted access to golf across Australia and the world. Thanks to Golf Australia, we're going inside the ropes.
G'day everybody, welcome to Inside the Ropes, episode 16. Another huge week in the great game of golf and another huge week to come. And heaps of stuff to plough our way through. Travis Smyth about to join us, the winner of the Northern Territory PGA Championship. But before that, I say hello to Mark Hayes, as I always do. Hello, Hazy.
Hello, Murray. You've got me giggling already, and I don't want to be seen to be heavy breather Mark II, so I better get it under control.
We've had some comments on our various Facebook and social media outlets. Hello, Clayton.
Andy, good to see you.
That's Mike Clayton, of course. That means that Ask Us Anything Mark II is going to be part of this podcast. Now, there's a lot of stuff that has come across our desk that people want to speak to you about, and I think Hazy and I have probably got a couple of bits and pieces to throw our way at you as well, Clayton. So hopefully you're ready for this.
I am. There are a few lists here, and
Lovely.
New top 100 in the world list came out today, interestingly.
I'm interested in talking to you about golf course rankings.
Yeah, it came out today, yeah.
Right, we'll have a chat about all of that. But we got a man who needs to, has been very gracious with his time here on Inside the Ropes and has been good enough to join us at pretty short notice. He won at the Palmerston Golf Club last week. In fact, he bolted in as an amateur, wins the Northern Territory PGA Championship, a really important tournament on the landscape of Australian golf as we try and develop golf in that area of Australia. Travis Smyth joins us on Inside the Ropes, having bolted in by 6. Travis, thanks for joining us and congratulations, mate.
Yes, hello guys. Thank you so much. It's been an exciting few days and it's all sort of soaking in and I'm loving every minute of it.
Feet touch the ground yet? Is it one of those early moments? One of those moments early in your career where it's just taking a little bit of time for it all to sink in?
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't really get to celebrate it all really on Sunday night. So once I got back to Sydney, I kind of went out to dinner the other night and had a little bit of a night with some friends. So that's when it kind of all sort of soaked in, and until I kind of realised what the actual win would do for me, it's actually getting better and better.
So Trav, one of the things it's done for you is, it's hot off the presses really. It's taken you up inside the top 15 in the world amateur golf rankings. It's also with the achievement that you've performed in Darwin. It's taken you up into the Tier 1 benchmark athlete category in Golf Australia, which means you're alone in that division, and a phenomenal achievement. Earning extra funding to make it to tournaments and the prestige that comes with that. That's a great achievement for you.
Yeah, it's amazing. The help that I'll receive now from Golf Australia definitely is a massive relief, not only on me, but especially my parents. You know, being an amateur golfer, we're not playing for prize money, and it is expensive. But yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's just a perfect time to really start putting some results on the board. You know, transitioning from amateur to pro, and it's I'm just kind of lost for words a little bit, to be honest.
You've never lost for words, mate. I've never heard that in my life.
It's just so good. It's all just happened so fast, and I'm just focused on trying to play golf, and now all this other stuff's happening. It's exciting.
Well, mate, you say it's happened so fast. It's a really good segue to what I was going to ask you, because you're 22 now. You haven't rushed it. You know, there's a lot of examples of kids who get stars in their eyes, 16, 17, 18, even some of your mates who've rushed into the pro ranks. You know, you've bided your time here. You've progressed through. You must be happy with that decision now.
Oh yeah, 100%. This time last year, I was tossing up whether I was going to try and turn pro and just work my way through tour schools, or stay amateur for another year. And basically, I felt like my game is good enough and I should be, ranked where I am now, but I just wasn't this time last year. So I kind of just trusted the process a little bit. And because the amateur system is a 2-year rolling period, and now winning this and now cracking the top 15. It's great.
So, Trav, Clates here. What exemptions do you get from tour schools and stuff for winning an Australian Tour event? Do you get any exemptions into Japan or Europe through different stages there? Do you know?
I'm not too sure about that, but like right now my priority is European Tour School, and I don't think I get to get exempt to second stage because I've kind of already entered, and where I was at the cut-off date, I had to start from first stage.
Okay.
But that's no problem. Like I'm going to go do that, and then in between first and second stage is the Asia Pacific Amateur, which I really want to try and win. So it's best case scenario, I can win that and hold off turning pro for another 6 months until Augusta, and then if not, try and get my card in Europe and go down that route.
So can you if you play the Asian Amateur and won that, would you then go to the final of the European Tour School? You wouldn't do that.
I probably just I just come straight home. There's no need because obviously staying amateur and you play all the pro events that come from that, and then obviously teed up in the Masters and go from there.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it'd be fair to say that Asian Amateur's been the one that's been pricking your interest for a long time now, Trav, wouldn't it?
Big time, yeah. I've played it 2 times now, and it's just such a world-class event, and just seeing from what Anthony Madaka got from it, and Curtis Lark, it's definitely high on the list of things to win for sure. It's a dream of everyone to play the Masters, and I feel like the Asia Pacific Amateur is our best shot at it, and I'm really looking forward to it.
So, just getting back to what you did, in the NT PGA Championship, you shoot that 64 in the opening round, Trav, and there's a lot of guys in this field who have played a lot of golf, a lot of hardened sort of pros, and a lot of other guys at various stages of their careers. You hold them at bay, for the next 3 rounds pretty comfortably, and as we said at the outset, you win by 6. As you've kind of reviewed in your own mind, how it played out and what you did and what you maybe learned about yourself, do you take much away from the fact that you got out in the opening round and then you just never really took your foot off the throat of the tournament thereafter?
Yeah, it was the way you look at it. You're like, you must have been feeling pressure, all this sort of things, like every single night. Yeah, like when I'm away from the golf course, I feel like that's when all the pressure kind of builds up and your mind goes a little bit crazy. But I felt like all week when I was out on the course, me being an amateur, I'm not playing for money. I've basically got nothing to lose. I just went out there and played golf, and the mentality I always try and take into every single event is, it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. There's a golf ball, there's a fairway, there's a hole, and just do the best you can for every single shot, and count all the strikes up at the end, and it is what it is. Just give it your best crack, and that's what I did all week, and I didn't feel pressure at all once, really. Like, I felt more nervous for the first time of the week doing my victory speech than I did going up 18.
Right.
It was, I don't know, it almost felt like it was too easy. So I was kind of more expecting, my first professional win. I'm going to have to, close the thing out and birdie 2 of the last 4 or something like that and take it from someone. But, fortunately for me, last week, it just was, everything was going for me, and if I could win like that every week, I'd be the less stressed player out there for sure, put it that way.
No doubt about that.
What's it like, though, Trav, when you sit back and when you have had time to analyse it, and you have beaten a really quality field there? I mean, it's a high-paying Tier 2 event. It's one that attracts them, and I know they would love to go up to Darwin and experience everything. So it was a field that wasn't short of talent.
Yeah, that just makes it that much more better, and makes you feel better. Yeah, obviously about yourself. That guys like James Niddies and Aaron Price and Joe Felton, there was so many, Jimmy Papadakis, there was so many good players. It just gives you that little bit more confidence and that little bit more of an edge, going into the next events. And when I'm in that position again, I can say that I've been here and I've done it. I'll be better for it, that's for sure.
So Dean Lawson's pocketed the cheque there for you being gracious enough to stay amateur. Aside from that, obviously you'd like the $22,000 or $23,000, whatever it was, that would have jumped in. However, what would you say to people who are 17, 18, got the world at their feet, stars in their eyes? Do you stay amateur? Do you go pro? Why would you stay amateur?
Just the experience that comes from being like an elite amateur, you could say, I feel like is trending these days. Is like all the top elite amateur. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't know. It's just you get these opportunities to play in pro events, and you get exempt into final stage of US Open like major qualifiers, and you can play US amateurs. You basically can plan your whole schedule. Being an elite amateur, you can get into whatever you want, and that in itself is a thing that you need to do well when you're out on tour. I feel like so. Definitely a learning curve, not just about the golf, but like the whole travel and organisation of everything. Having that schedule definitely helps the transition to turning pro. Like once you're pro, all it is a title, and you're still travelling, competing against world-class players. But it just shapes you to be more of a professional. I feel like staying amateur a little bit longer, and the quality around the world in these top amateur events is not almost as good, but like they're world-class players that are going to be playing on the PGA Tour in a number of years or the European Tour. So it's not like you're playing in fields that aren't up to standard. So it's just all a timing thing as well, because then you get these outliers of like Ryan Ruffles and Jordan Spieth that turn pro young and they make the most of those opportunities. So it just depends who you are. But for me, it was an amazing decision to stay amateur a little longer because I wasn't the greatest of amateurs when I was 18, 19. But whereas now, I kind of am who I am. So it's all timing. You just got to time it right, I feel like, turning pros. Like the worst mistake a lot of people can do is to turn pro early. And you're out in a field of world-class players, and if you get beaten up and you get put down, that's a hard way to start your pro career.
It's a really good answer.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And to that, I mean, you are coming off great form, not only in the Australian pro ranks, but you're coming off a really excellent finish in the United States Amateur Championship, the biggest amateur event in the world. Top 8 there, and you had your chances. I know you were a bit disappointed not to take it a step or two further, but looking back, that's another great achievement too.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like I felt like that week was the best I've ever felt with my game, and I just happened to slip up a little bit on the last 9 holes, and Doc Redman, the eventual winner, ended up beating me on the last hole. And I was very bummed, but I knew good things were around the corner just because I felt so confident in my game. And then I come back to Australia, regroup for a couple of weeks and go to Darwin, and it was, just everything went for me. Everything was just going so well, and I got the win. So definitely the lead up, the great performance at USAM helped me a lot going into Darwin for sure.
Trav, there's been a dearth, let's be honest about this, there's been a dearth of talent out of New South Wales for a long time. But right now, you guys are in the middle of an unbelievable wave. There's 5 or 6 really quality players coming through. A couple of your really good mates, Harrison Endicott's been in the top 10 or so in the world. Dylan Perry's had an unbelievable season this year in the amateur ranks. There's a handful of other guys too, mate. You know who they are. But under Dean Kinney and a few of the others in Golf New South Wales High Performance Program, things have really turned the corner, haven't they?
Oh, big time. Like, he is the best mentor coach that any of us could ever dream of. Like, he's just so switched on in all areas of everything, and he's definitely took us under the wing the appropriate way and shaped us to the people we are, and he's created that team environment, which I think is very, very important being an individual sport. So I give him so much credit for any success that I make. He's definitely a massive impact as part of my team for sure. And the help from Golf New South Wales and everyone is, I wouldn't be where I am without him. It's been amazing.
So just before we let you go, where next? Like the immediate kind of 2 or 3 or 4 weeks in front of you now, mate. What does it look like?
Yeah, so Golf Australia are flying the whole Australian team out to New Zealand tomorrow, actually to Wellington to play the course in preparation for the Asian Amateur. So I'll do that over the weekend, but then come back for a couple of weeks, and then I'll fly out on 25th to London, get ready for first stage European Tour School that happens in the first week of October. Try and do the best I can to advance there, and then come back, Asian Am, try and win that, and then life's all good. If not, then hopefully I'm into second stage, and I'll and go from there. So that's all planned and organised for now. And then after European Tour School's done, I'll tee it up in the Aussie Open. It's kind of good that I've had that win now, because I can either get an invite as an amateur or I can officially make that my first event as a professional. So that's exciting, and same as Aussie PGA. So whatever happens. I'm just going to do the best I can to hit that little white golf ball in the hole, and I know there's good things around the corner. So it's exciting.
You're making easy segues for me here, Trav. This is brilliant from you, because I remember asking you about why, what turned the corner for you, like what made you take that extra step and work harder and kick it to that next level, and you basically said your experience at the Australian Open last year and the crowds. Can you just walk us through that?
Yeah, that was amazing last year. I qualified at Carnarvon on the Monday straight away after the New South Wales Open. Got out to the Australian Open. I was physically pretty run down from a whole bunch of events, and managed to play some great golf, made the cut, worked my way inside the top 30, and I just took so much from it, because I felt like I played good golf, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel like I did anything special, and I kind of beat like a lot of good players that kind of peaked for that Australian Open, and it just gave me a little bit of a boost from that, and just some of the memories I remember from it, and having the crowds, and just how exciting that style of golf is that we don't really get in amateur golf with the crowds and stuff. It's just something that I just want to be a part of, and I'm so hungry to just keep trying to play events of that caliber week in, week out. So the Australian Open definitely got things rolling for sure.
All right, mate, I got one last one for you. I am the head of a major international company. I want to sponsor Travis Smyth for $1 million a season for the next 10 years.
Sign me up.
But Travis, I need you to cut off your man bun. Otherwise, there's no deal. What happens?
I'd probably flick you, to be honest.
There you go. That is great.
I need to trust myself to earn more than $1 million. So hopefully I can just I'm not going to need it, and I'll keep the man bun, and everything will be good.
and be who you are, mate. Do it your way. Oh, it's a great answer. It's a great answer.
You're an outrage.
Anybody who's listening to this is going to be very, very keen the next time they're at an Australian tournament or a tournament anywhere in the world that you're teeing it up in, I reckon, to stand behind the ropes and have a little bit of a look at you play your golf, mate. It's been a joy having you on the show. There's a lot for you to look forward to, and a lot for us to look forward to watching you do it. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been fun.
Travis Smyth, the winner of the Northern Territory PGA Championship, with it all in front of us, all in front of him, joining us on Inside the Ropes.
G'day, I'm My Golf Ambassador Jason Dave. I'm really excited to be an ambassador for My Golf, Australian Golf's national junior program, jointly run by Golf Australia and the PGA. My Golf is every Aussie kid's first step on their golfing pathway. It's all about teaching children the basic skills of golf in a safe and healthy environment, and just as importantly, about the life skills that golf can teach you that distinguish our sport from the rest. Remember to visit mygolf.org.au for more information.
Hi, it's Stuart Appleby here. With October coming up, it's time to share the golf bug with a friend.
Hopefully you enjoyed listening to Travis Smyth as much as we did. You've been telling me for a while, Hazy, that this kid's a bit of a natural, and listening to him just talk about where he's at and what lies in front of him, he's you could listen to him talk about it for a while, couldn't you?
Yeah. He's a natural on the course. Well, he works hard at it, but within reason, he's a natural. But he's a natural off the course. He's one of those guys that if he gets up and running in the next few years, people will flock to him. He's got a magnetic personality. He's a big, strapping, blonde, tall guy. Brilliant speaker, as you can hear. And I just think that, he's got that appeal that really could help lift not only his game, but golf to another level.
Do you like the way he's going about it, Clayton?
The thing I don't get is this will sound crazy, if I had a chance to get a European Tour card, I would go to the final, and if I got it, I would pass up playing the Masters and playing Europe.
Would you?
Masters 1 week, Europe's a whole career. I would not miss a chance to play Europe for a season over having a game at the US Masters.
You're serious?
It's not that. If you're a good enough player, you'll get back in it sometime again. If you're not, then it didn't. It was.
What if this is your one chance? What if this is your one lick of the ice cream? Your only opportunity.
And you're going to give up a chance. If he got through the 3 stages in Europe, there's no way you would give that up to go and play the Masters. I wouldn't anyway.
What would you do, Hazy?
Oh, I'm stunned to hear Clayton say that. I mean, it makes sense, but
it does make sense.
I think these guys grow up seeing so much Augusta National thrust down their throats for so long. You know, it's the pinnacle of golf. It's this and that and the other. And as much as Trav's got his head screwed on right and wants to go to Europe in the medium term, I just think it's going to be too big an offer.
Yeah,
it's just the cherry's right there, Clayton. You can almost lick it.
You know, the chances are you miss the cut. If the history of amateurs playing the Masters, you're probably going to go there and play 36 holes. Although Curtis played well this year, made the cut. And once it's over, and what happens then?
No, I take your point. I just think that...
I think you can just... If you had a chance to play a whole season in Europe, which is tough. It's tough to get through all three stages, and there'll be certain tournaments you won't get into. You won't get into those things in the Middle East probably. But if by the end of next year you could be exempt in Europe, fully exempt in Europe, make the top 110 there, and no way I would pass that up to go and play in the Masters. No chance.
He's clearly appreciating what's in front of him as an amateur, the things that amateur golf provide him and present to him, as opposed to just jumping into the pro ranks straight away and just consigning yourself to 4-round stroke events pretty much for the rest of your life. In terms of getting exposure and experience and all of that stuff that comes from playing more match play golf than stroke golf before you turn pro, is there any kind of advantage in that, Clates, that can hold you in good stead down the track?
Well, the advantage is that, excuse me, Curtis, I don't know the numbers, but I think he signed a pretty nice deal with Callaway. So the advantage of being one of the best amateurs in the world is when you turn pro, you're liable to sign a contract with a company for a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that kind of funds the first 3 years of your development as a player. But again, if you got through the European Tour School and you're a decent player, and obviously he's a better than decent player, you can fund your own career by making money. There's way enough money out there to make enough money to fund yourself with prize money.
The thing that I loved about listening to him, Hazy, and is the fact that he loves being part of a team. He loves representing Australia. All of that stuff's really important to him. And we've seen other young, phenomenally gifted Australian players in recent times. One in particular, Ryan Ruffles, has decided to bypass a whole lot of amateur golf to jump into the deep end pro ranks wise. He misses all that. There's 4 or 5 years of Ruffles's golf development and growth phase that he'll never get to experience. Now, who knows what that's going to look like in 20 years' time, but that's a great thing that the kid's aware of, I reckon.
Yeah, Ryan's... he's made his choices. He had it all laid out in front of him, so you can't begrudge him.
I'm not knocking him. I'm not. No.
No, and I'm not praising it or knocking it either way. Yeah. But he knew what he was doing. Travis, as Ryan did with playing for Victoria, Travis loves playing for New South Wales. You should see the spark in his eye when he gets to that interstate series. It's magic, and he's watched good mates. He's good mates with Curtis Luck. He's watched his New South Wales buddies who are Harrison Endicott and Cam Davis win the Eisenhower Trophy last year. He's seen that, what the amateur team game can do. He knows it firsthand. He enjoys travelling with his mates. He's one of those guys who went to the national camp in Houston. He's been in the States travelling with a bunch of guys, Dylan Perry, etc., for months now. He's right on board with the team thing, and when you hear him talk about his high performance crew at Golf New South Wales, he gets really pumped up. He loves it, absolutely loves it, and he loves pushing himself, but also the next person along. There's some girls in the New South Wales state team, much younger than he is, who look up to him because of the way he does it. And I think he appreciates that.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, and excuse me, there is no right or wrong answer to the Augusta European Tour thing, and. It's I remember Jeff Ogilvy telling me, he said the most fun I ever had playing golf, this was after he won the US Open, was playing in the interstate series.
Yeah, right.
And playing pennant golf. It was, it's great fun and not something to just blow off and say, well, it's not important or it's no fun or it's lots of fun playing the interstate series. And
I think the bottom line is what Clayton said before. He has the talent, and there are others too. They have the talent to be able to get back to it. Yeah. Some people you couldn't say that, but I do think he is in a position, talent-wise and mentality-wise, that he will get back to it. Even if he took the European option, he will get to the Masters, and vice versa, for that matter. He could take the Masters and get back to Europe, but I think it's a really smart thing that he has Europe on his mind as well, not just making it North American-specific and North American-centric, that, that's the only way I can get there.
And you could turn pro the week after the Masters.
Of course.
And have a decent manager who could get you 7 starts in Europe.
Yeah.
And if you played well, then you make your money, and you know it's much easier to make your money in Europe in 7 starts than it is in America.
Yeah, yeah. Just one before we get off and back onto the big picture, like the bigger picture stuff that's going on around the world. I just want to mention Rick Culottes, who finished tied 6 in Northern Territory up in Alice, and understand there's bigger finishes and bigger checks and bigger deals around the place. But there's sort of something about the Culottes story sitting alongside Travis Smyth winning as an amateur that's a bit, not cautionary or anything, but I remember watching Culottes win that New South Wales Open as an amateur back in about 2007, 6 or 7, something like that.
We shot.
Hey, you going over there? What are you?
I've got something in my throat.
Yeah,
I'll tell you,
this
is
giving
magnificent. Great ease of mind to the heavy breather who occasionally sits next to me.
People all over the world listening to this podcast are reaching for a butt of menthol. Just listening
bad as
to
my
you,
voice.
Yes. God, my voice is killing me.
Rick Culottes was famous for shooting 64 when he was 14 at the Vines. And what is he, 30 now?
Yeah, 30, yep.
And Michael Simmons, Oliver Goss, and there's been a list as long as your arm of really good amateur players who, where are they now? Andrew Buckle, boy, it's as long as it's so easy to get lost out on that tour now.
So he wins that New South Wales Open as an amateur. I've got it in front of me now in 2006.
Yeah.
He then wins twice as a pro. Like, he actually didn't, it just didn't end there. He goes and wins the Brunei Open in 2008. He beats Kiradech Appy Barnrat in the Royal Selangor Masters in 2009. So he goes on, and in his early stages as a pro, he gets some wins on the board to stick some money in the bank and get some self-belief. Now, I haven't spoken to Rick for a long time, but I get the sense that he's got a bit lost with his game somewhere along the line, and the last 18 months he's really decided to maybe get back some sort of work ethic and try and get back to where he was. I'm only guessing because I'm seeing his name bob up in more sort of events around Australia than we've seen him play in recent times. But there's a lot of these stories in golf that, had we been doing this show 10 years ago, we would have been talking to Rick Culottes going, oh, mate, it's all in front of you.
Yeah.
Go your hardest. We can't wait to see what you're going to do. And, as we've just done with Travis Smyth, and it's a brutal game like that, golf.
Yeah, Wayne Grady went to apply to the Queensland PGA, which was the rule then. You could apply to the state PGA to turn pro. If they thought you were good enough, you could turn pro. And Colin Bishop and Peter Headland and a whole bunch of guys went through that system. And Grays turned up at the meeting and they said, we don't think you're good enough. And 2 months later, he won the West Lakes Classic. But, no one thought Grades was particularly good. I knew he was because I'd played with him since he was a kid. I knew how hard he worked. You look at how hard guys like Peter Senior and Wayne Grady worked, and Peter Fowler worked at golf. Who no one thought Chook was any good.
Right.
And he's still one of the best players in 45 years later. He's still one of the grinding away as hard as he ever did, and he's still one of the best players on the European Senior Tour.
Seve thought he was okay.
Seve thought he had the best short game in Europe, even better than mine. But the only man with a better short game than me in Europe is Peter Fowler, which is a pretty big rap.
It's a massive rap.
That was Seve, not Clay.
No, that was Seve.
Have you seen anyone? I should say this for Ask Us Anything, but I'll ask you now because we're on it, and Ask Us Anything's coming up soon. Did you see any player through your era who did it just on natural talent alone, without working their bum off? Did you see anyone who just kind of...
Probably Monty.
Right.
Monty didn't. At some point, everyone's worked hard. Monty never hit you barely saw him hit a practice ball. And I think Ian Woosnam worked hard and he toiled in Europe, eating baked beans out of the back of a caravan for 3 or 4 years.
Hello, Peter Uline.
But Woosie had an incredible talent. But Woosie, everyone worked hard.
They all worked hard,
worked
right?
hard.
Yeah.
No one's ever made who hasn't. There's a list as long as your arm of the greatest myth of golf or life is that if you work hard, you'll be successful.
Yeah, that's right.
Lots of people have worked hard and you've never heard of them.
That's true. That's very true.
But everyone who's been successful has worked hard. Peter Fowler worked harder than Colin Montgomery, but they had completely different games. Peter Fowler had to work harder than Monty. Monty just put the ball on the ground and hit it purely every day.
Mm.
So why practice? You didn't need to practice. Peter Thompson was the same. And Woosie was the same. Yet Faldo was an absolute grinder, and he worked as hard as anyone.
And does it come to pass that had Montgomery had Faldo's work ethic, he would have won 10 majors. It doesn't come to pass, does it? Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Not by default.
No, it doesn't work that way.
One, there's that, the John Daly story, walking out of the gym. No, Tiger Woods walking out of the gym, like sweating like a pig and looking completely exhausted from pumping weights. And John Daly walked past and says, I can't believe you do all that stuff, Tiger. He said, if I had your talent, John, I wouldn't have to.
There you go.
So, I mean, Tiger, and when you read Hank Haney's book on Tiger, it's an insight into how hard he worked.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, I think some kids get it, but I think some of them don't understand how hard the best players work.
The Golf Australia website is now the place to go to look up your handicap and so much more. Whether you're out and about on your phone or in the office trying to avoid work, just go to golf.org.au and punch your golf link number into the box at the top of the homepage. Who knows, maybe that last round was just good enough to put you in single figures. While you're on the site, check out the daily golf results at your club, view our course index for up-to-date ratings, read the latest golf news from home and abroad, listen to Australian golf podcasts and interviews, and watch video tournament highlights or tips to improve your game. It's everything a golf tragic could want. Visit golf.org.au today, the home of Australian golf.
G'day, it's Mick O'Hearn here. Whenever I get the chance, I catch up with Inside the Ropes to follow up on all the latest golf, and I urge you to all do the same. It's a great show.
So it's approaching kind of midday on Thursdays. We sit down to do this edition of Inside the Ropes. And a couple of hours ago, Hazy, the captain's picks were made for the upcoming President's Cup, which we're all excited about. I mean, it's a really, really big deal, for us. And it's a strong contingent, that Australia's got in the President's Cup team. Are we happy? I mean, it's a bit like the All-Australian team in footy. It's hard to argue the merits, is it not, of the two blokes that get added to the squad, because by the virtue of the fact that they're in the running, they're good players,
Yeah. I personally get really excited about this. We watched the Solheim Cup. We've talked about that at length over the last few weeks, and more relevant, I suppose, in this instance is the Ryder Cup. And we're not involved, obviously. And I get incredibly jealous that we're not part of it. So this is always important, I think, to Australian golf. Even if we don't see our flag and colours, we're part of it, and we've been an integral part of it. So this is the one. To your question, I think there's a couple of selections here that are absolute givens. So do we name them now, Andy?
Yeah, go hardest. Yeah, please.
So this morning, Steve Stricker has named Charlie Hoffman, who's an absolute no-brainer to get a pick. He was in for most of Monday as they teetered and totted on the Boston TPC course. So it was a no-brainer that he got in. But he's also picked Phil Mickelson, and I reckon there'll be a couple of American guys in the middle. For all Phil's value to the team and his history with the involvement of the President's Cup, Clates, he's probably a little bit lucky to get in here, isn't he?
Well, it's not a long-term the Ryder Cup really is the big deal. And it was a chance to blood perhaps a young player for that. But, it's a TV deal and the tour on the event.
Of course it is, yeah.
I mean, you want Mickelson there because he's the scene with that kid the other day.
Great vision.
Apart from the fact that someone pointed out he actually technically broke a rule because you're not allowed to ask for advice from anyone but your caddy. For those who didn't see it, Mickelson asked this about a 5-year-old kid whether he should take on a 3-wood over the water at Boston. He said, the kid said, if I could fly a 3-wood 260, I'd be going for it.
It was brilliant.
It was fantastic.
Really good
stuff.
And that is why they love him.
Yeah, they definitely love him. I just think it's he's finished up the season strongly. I'm just not sure if I was Brian Harman that I'd be super thrilled that I didn't get in front of Phil Mickelson.
But Brian Harman's the only guy who's upset at that pick.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
So who are you picking the team for? Crowds or?
You're picking the team. No, well, I assume he's picking in the team he thinks is going to win. And Mickelson's got a pretty decent record in the President's Cup.
Yeah, very decent record.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to play Brian Harman. He's a rock solid match player, I reckon.
But Mickelson's 46. Is he going to make the Ryder Cup at 47? And is he going to play at Royal Melbourne?
You could argue that the Ryder Cup doesn't need Phil Mickelson maybe as much as the President's Cup does.
Yeah,
you could argue that.
And I think, if someone said to me, "Do you want to watch Phil Mickelson at Royal Melbourne in 2019?" Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd happily watch him. Don't get me wrong, I'd happily watch him. But
just add another one you've just had a massive crack at on this podcast on the way through.
Need to put another notch on the wall here.
We won't get Phil Mickelson on the show now after you've just torched him.
Well, I'll tell you who I won't get on the show is Anaban Lahiri, who was the second of Nick Price's selections. He's picked Emiliano Grillo, which was a no-brainer again. He's shown good form late in the season. He was number 11 on the list. But he's gone down to number 16 with Anaban Lahiri. Maybe it's because I haven't quite forgiven Anaban Lahiri for missing a 6-inch putt that would have given the President's Cup half a chance for the international team in Seoul.
Who did he pass over to get to Lahiri? Lee Hao Tong was one, presumably?
He passed over Lee Hao Tong. He passed over Hideto Tanahara. He passed over Yuta Ikeda. And more importantly, I think for me, was Ben Arn.
Yeah. He's a good player, Ben Arn.
I just think,
a good player. Yeah.
I think Ben Arn's, got that X factor. And look, this is my thoughts with the President's Cup teams, all 12 of them, Andy. It's clearly on paper the US is going to smoke us. There's no doubt about that.
I don't agree with that at all.
No, on paper.
No, I don't see that either.
Hang on. Just let me have my two bobs. They've picked a team finally on the international front that's got the X factor. Hadwin can go low. Johnny Vegas can go low. Siwoo Kim's a freak show. Emiliano Grillo's a birdie machine.
Brandon Grace can, as we've seen recently.
Yeah, I think finally we have a team that's capable of mixing it in a low-scoring situation.
Yeah, I've read stuff where they've just written off the international team as having no chance to win. It's like, this is a pretty fair fight, I think.
I'm not doing that at all. I'm just saying, on paper, when we're spotting them well over 100 rankings points in total, it doesn't add up. I mean, they'll say, but you've got Spieth, you've got Johnson, you've got Fowler.
It is a strong American team.
And that's all true, but once you get out there...
Fowler's pretty beatable, isn't he?
They're all beatable. Matsuyama could beat anyone. Yeah. Jason Day could beat anyone. Those four guys at the bottom of our order can beat anyone. We've seen Mark Leishman beat Spieth in President's Cup before. The South Africans could do anything. So I don't rate us not a chance at all. I think we're half a show.
I think it's a good team.
Yeah.
I think it's a great team.
We're not going to get anyone from the International President's Cup team.
Well, I have been trying.
Slaughtered all of them.
I have been trying, Andy. I'll just put that on the record. But I just think the only selection that's of disturbing to me, and I know he's a great bloke. I understand he's a ripping bloke, is Anaban Lahiri. And I'm not worried about that putt. I've let that go. But Ben Arn is a really nice player from South Korea, and I think he's the one who can feel a little bit aggrieved.
I do know the vice captain, Jeff Ogilvy, thought that Lahiri was terrific in the team room last year. Thought he was great.
That counts for plenty, right?
That would count a lot for a lot, and probably got him over the line in the end.
Okay, Nick, let's hear from the two captains. Nick Price, first of all, on what he hopes his team will do differently this time around.
Well, I think what's happened in the past is that we've been pretty slow starters. Monday, as I say, is the first time we're all together in the team room, and it doesn't matter how much communicating you do with the guys, or how many phone calls or emails or text messages you send the guys. It's all about how that team bonds in the team room on Monday. And that's generally been a little slow. I think that's what I noticed the first time in 13 at Muirfield. 15 was a lot better. In fact, Adam Scott got up and spoke to the rookies and told them how important and how much it meant to him. I think the more experienced guys in the team really need to tell those rookies how much it is and how important it is. And I think that's what Phil has done, so wonderfully for the Ryder Cup team members and also for the President's Cup team guys on the US team. So that's a big deal for us, is to try and get off to a better start than we have in previous years.
Sort of goes to what you're saying about Ogilvy and Lahiri a little bit, doesn't it? Trying to build that thing into a team of, the sort of diaspora, the golfing diaspora that makes up the kind of international team.
Yeah, which probably makes it difficult for the Japanese guys he passed over. He played the Japanese tour and no one knows them particularly well, and their English is probably not that great, and it probably counts against those guys in terms of getting a pick. They're always going to have to play their way onto the team to get on it, because, Ishikawa's not a factor now, but he was good when he played, and I think he was great as a part of the team. But the Japanese guys who primarily play the Japanese tour, unless they make that top 10, they're never going to get a pick.
Steve Stricker, the US team, of course, talked about having Tiger as his assistant.
Well, he's going to bring a lot. We saw that last year at the Ryder Cup, and Tiger is so committed. I'm starting to get texts from him every other day. I've talked to him on the phone a couple times. He's really, really excited to be a part of this team. A couple months ago, he told me that he wasn't quite sure he was going to be a part of this team just because he wasn't feeling good enough. Now he's feeling better. He's excited to be a part of this team. These young guys look up to him. And when you see Tiger Woods committed to this team, that only helps the confidence and the look in these younger guys' eyes when they see how excited Tiger Woods is just to be a part of this team. These guys rally behind that, and they're excited to be around him. And I can't wait to be with him, too. I mean, it's been a long time since we've had him out on tour, and this will be kind of his first step back, and we're happy to have him, and he's looking forward to it as well.
Well, we're all in awe of Tiger.
Let's not buy into this American propaganda. I really want to give it to these blokes at New Jersey, Clayton. I don't know if you can sense that or not.
Yeah, well.
Seriously, that's bollocks.
But that's what they do. This is what America is, right? They sell this crap, and Americans they lap it up, and it's the rah-rah BS that they go on with all the time. We know what's Tiger bringing. Well, I mean, half the blokes will be looking at Tiger, and they'll be looking at the photos that got hacked into his phone, and they'll be thinking about that. They won't be thinking about a thing that he's got to say about how you make that little 6-footer on down the hill left to right on 13. They'll be going, ooh.
I hope Travis Smyth doesn't mind me bringing this up, but this morning while I was arranging him to come on the show, he sent me a little text grab. He was very excited about it. He looked at his new world ranking after his win.
I saw that.
710. Now he's got it in comparison in one photo with Tiger at 1,130. So I just want to say the international team will be very excited if Travis Smyth walks into the club rooms at what is it? What's the name of this course? New Jersey?
Liberty National.
Thank you. If Travis Smyth walks in there, they'll be walking very, up in the air. They'll be 6'8". They'll be bulletproof if Travis Smyth comes in there. So
that's all in front of us. What is now behind us is the second leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Mark Leishman, we've got to have a chat about this. 6 under the front on the last day to almost blow the tournament apart, and then 5 under on the back, just a horrible collapse. And he sort of put out a tweet after it saying, golf gives and it takes, and it kicks in the head, and it punched me around a bit today, but, thanks for everyone's support. I mean, that must be a brutal realisation. I know he pockets about 500,000 at the end of it.
700 US.
So shit doesn't hurt.
Just go home with 700 US to ease the pain. Alleviate the pain just a little.
Softens the blow ever so slightly.
I think his earnings to about $4 million this year.
But it's not it is about that because he's a professional golfer. Yeah, but for Leishman now, it's about winning things, isn't it? That's what it is for Leishman now.
Yeah.
Is that going to be? I mean, he'll just move on. I mean, he's obviously playing really well. This is not going to dog him,
He'll just move on and.
But how does that? Fine. You'd be filthy though, wouldn't you? I mean,
well, he is filthy. I've never seen him make that tweet before. Like, it's the first time I reckon I've seen him engage like that, and he gets over things really well because he's got the best perspective of just about anyone on tour. Yeah. So that's not going to be an issue. But it was also sort of nice to see him
admit it.
Yeah, because I think he coulda, woulda, shoulda in the 2015 Open Championship at St Andrews.
Yeah.
He got a terrible lie in the playoff. He missed a putt short to win it on the 72nd. We all know the story.
I think it was it Jim Mackay who said he was called him the most underrated player on tour?
Yeah.
Which is by far, I would say, the most underrated player on tour.
Yeah. And I think he's got that sort of perception about him because he hasn't won a lot. He's been super consistent for a long time. To get to number 23 now without having really stood your foot on a big one is a great achievement.
Yeah.
But, I reckon it's starting to burn in him.
I think so too.
And just like we said with Scotty, like I've been banging on about this with you for ages, Andy, you've got to take the chances when they're there because you never know what's going to happen in the future. Adam Scott, example 1. His own wife, example number 2. He could not have been playing golf now. You've got to take these chances.
I don't get why are we inundated with articles on Bernard Tomic and Nick Kyrgios, and no one in the street could pick out Mark Leishman in a lineup. No one writes anything about him. Where he's just way ahead of those guys in terms of it's just, how does tennis, why is tennis such an important game when it's just...
Because it's got a Grand Slam, because we've got a Grand Slam in Melbourne, and that is the only reason. If we ever lost, our Grand Slam rating, if we ever lost that tournament, Australia, you watch the arse fall out of Australian tennis. Like, it will go down a massive black hole, and these two pillocks that you're talking about, they'll never be spoken about again. Yeah. And I mean, imagine Channel 7, right, trying to promote an Australian Open, which they'll do again, off the back of Bernard Tomic and Nick Kyrgios. That's what it'll be, like, the sell, the hype they're going to, beat up around these two blokes. So really, no one gives a tinker's cuss about. And you see Peter Hanscom, who loses 5 kilos batting in the Chandigarh heat. No one, he could stand up in your porridge and most blokes wouldn't know him. Yeah. And like Mark Leishman could do the same thing. And these two clowns aren't fit to carry their bags.
Well, I think we haven't
even got to ask us anything yet. This is an outstanding start.
We're not comparing apples with oranges with Kyrgios and Tomic. I mean, Kyrgios is a really good player.
He's a good player, but he's
really good player.
He is, but he's
and might win a major. But and I'm a tennis fan. But what amazes me is that golf gets none of the coverage compared with the exorbitant amount of coverage 2 tennis players get.
That's good.
Maybe we should get Leash to snap a few 3-irons.
Maybe that's what he needs to do. Stop being such a decent player.
Mind you, he could have hit the cameraman in the nuts the other day. We might have got a bit more. How was that? How was that
straight
move?
through his legs.
That was brilliant, wasn't it? That cameraman was that was the coolest move ever. That camera just lift the leg, ball scratch. That was unbelievable.
Great. So Leishman goes on the FedEx Cup standings. Leishman goes from 20th going into 7th on the rankings. Jason Day just chipping away. I know you reckon he's playing like a blind man at the moment, Hazy, but he's 29 up to 28. So
he's coming.
He's going okay, Jason Day. Can we just have a quick word about Justin Thomas? 2007, just in the calendar year of 2017, he's played 19 tournaments in 2007. He's won 4. He's got a further top 10s. He's won the major. He's now top 5 in the world. Is that up to 3 or 4 in the world, the official World Golf Rankings? But what I wanted to talk to you two about, unless you've got something you want to say about him just as a player, he misses the cut. He's missed the cut 6 times this year out of 19 tournaments. Yeah. He misses the cut 25% of the time he tees it up as a pro. And I just had a quick look at a couple of his contemporaries. So Thomas, 25% of the time, missed cut as a pro. Spieth, 14.5%. Johnson, 16%. Matsuyama, 15%. John Rahm, in the early stages, 11.5% of the time he misses the cut. And it sort of goes a little bit to what Travis Smyth was saying before about just play it. Don't worry about any. Just play. Because if you play well enough and you don't care about just making the cut, if you're going to miss, you just miss. Who cares? Because next week I'm going to go get him. Is that the kind of mentality that Justin Thomas is bringing to the game, do you reckon? It's all or nothing, and who cares if you're not here on the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, Tiger Woods, 0% for a long time.
Yeah.
What did he make, 140-something in a row? Which is almost the most amazing statistic of his career. I think they just take the driver out and hit as hard as they can and wedge it on the green, and if you miss it, you miss it. Yeah, I think that's probably an attitude that lots of guys have. I know Scott Henn does that. Most pros make 80% of their money in 10% of the tournaments they play.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So, 60%, 63% of stats are made up on the spot.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no. The consistency thing, I mean, Huggy wrote a story about Katrina Matthew, who came out and finished 13th, 14th and 7th, 3 weeks. She played Australia and 2 in Asia. Next year she came out, she missed the cut, finished 3rd somewhere and then finished 40th. She made more money for a missed cut 3rd and 40th than 13th, 14th and 15th.
Yeah.
So what is consistency in terms of if you're just talking about how much money you make? But Thomas looks, I've never seen him play, but it looks like he's terrific player who stands there and hits as hard as he can, as far as he can, finds it, hits it on the green. And you're going to miss some cuts if you do that, if you're prepared to go for everything. Which shows how great Tiger was, because that was kind of how Tiger played, but he never missed a cut because he was such a great player.
I couldn't agree with more than anything with what Clayton just said. It's not even a sentence, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And he's obviously a world-class short iron player and putter. Swings out of his boots. He weighs,
70 kilos.
Yeah, not even that.
70 kilos.
He swings out of his boots every drive he hits it. And I think he's come to terms with the fact that's his way of competing, because he can really lace it out there. And if he gets in position with the big guys, and I mean the physically big guys out off the tee, he can compete and win. If he doesn't, who cares? I'll get him next week.
Yep.
And
it's a good way to play your career, I reckon.
Yeah.
If you don't worry about it, if you're not worried about missing cuts, it's going to be, if it's not my week this week, it might be next week. It's not next week, it'll be the week after.
Well, he's set financially. He's already halfway to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So, what's he got to worry about?
Well, that's right. Yeah.
But the other thing about last week, which will bleed into some of the other stuff, was Justin Johnson hit a 6-iron to the controversial 12th hole last week, which doesn't sound that amazing, except that was the longest club he's hit it to a par 4 this year.
Is that right?
Tommy Diaz wrote a tremendous article in Golf Digest this week. The longest
6-iron,
the longest iron Dustin Johnson's hit to a par 4 this year. It was a 6-iron on the 12th hole.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Absolutely staggering.
And the long, I don't know whether you saw it. I know you'd be all over this, Clates, because this would mean a lot to you. The World Long Drive Championship that's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
So a bloke hit a fade the other day, 473 yards. He hit a fade, 473 yards. A fade.
Yeah, those guys are incredible. What's amazing is that girl. Have you seen that girl that does it?
Yeah.
I should know her name, but I don't, with the really cool hair. But why isn't she on the tour? Well, those guys have got lousy golf swings that you can see why they can't play golf. But she looks like why isn't she the best player in the world? Like she flies it 300 and something. Yeah.
Don't know.
Maybe she wears racy clothing.
Hayden Porteous wins on the European Tour. He's been going all right. This is one of these little comers that you see in Europe every now and again.
But he missed, did he miss 16 cuts?
He missed a load of cuts. He missed cuts all over the place, but his form coming in's been pretty good. Peter Uihlein, he wins the Webb. Was that the first of the Webb tournament? There's 3 to come.
We had 4 guys out of our 8 make the cut on the Webb finals. Mm-hmm. So Appleby, Gibson, Jones and Arnold missed it. Scott Henn finished 41st and is now inside the top 35 in the rankings. But more importantly, Cam Percy and Brett Druitt are about 22nd and Curtis Luck is 14th. And it's very early days there. But I think the thing here is if you finish, I heard it explained better to me yesterday, finish top 5 alone, you're in. You can't miss out if you finish top 5 alone. You can get in if you on one effort if you finish top 5 tied in 5th. But you need a few things.
So that sort of money is going to get you inside.
Yeah. So if we're watching it for the next 3 weeks, we're barracking for one of those guys to get in the top 5. That's our first and foremost thing. Then other than that, we need some consistency from those guys there and that level.
We won't be watching it this week though, will we? Because there's no men's. The LPGA is turning up in Indianapolis, but there's no men's golf in America this week on either PGA Tour or the Webb Tour. And I don't know whether there's an official reason for this, but I can only put it down to one thing.
Football, is it?
Yeah, I think it must be. College football started, and now the NFL starts this week.
College football? I don't get college football.
Oh, it's massive.
I know it's massive.
No, it's great.
Is it good?
Oh, it's great.
Is it okay?
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, but
Okay.
No money in the college game, Andy.
No money at all. No, they're completely
playing in zillion-dollar stadiums.
Now, ask us anything we're about to embark upon that. But just a little reminder, we want you to subscribe, folks. If you've been listening to this podcast and you haven't subscribed yet, we want you to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. For Android users, download the podcast app through Google Play. Get the show delivered to your device every single Thursday. You can also find Inside the Ropes on Spotify and Stitcher. Now, Hazy, I know you're going to tell me about Golf Month, but Simon Overland, the former Victorian Police Commissioner, left a magnificent 5-star review for us this week when he subscribed, and we want other people to do that.
And our thoughts to Simon Ovenden. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it wasn't Simon Overland.
We really appreciate you, Simon Ovenden. We don't, mistake you for anyone else.
Did he give Clates a little clip on the way through?
He might have. I'll just read it out to you, perhaps. So I put it to you, Andy, Hazy and friends. This is just great listening. A balanced and insightful examination into the world of golf at all levels. No bifurcation needed. Oh, I don't agree with that, Simon. To get the thoughts, opinions, and here we go, the views of Appleby, Pricey, and even Clates. Even Clates is illuminating and informative.
Like that.
Put simply, I love this.
I don't like the balance to it in there. No one ever accused me of being balanced.
So thanks, Simon. We really appreciate that. It's good of you.
Hi, this is Sherelle McMahon. Swing Fit is the fun, healthy, social way for women to get started in golf. You'll learn the basics of the golf swing and how to putt over a 6-week program and get your whole body moving through yoga and Pilates-style exercises. You don't need any golf knowledge or equipment. Simply turn up in comfy clothing and get started. You'll be surrounded by like-minded people and receive constant support. So get outdoors, meet new friends and learn a sport that you can play for the rest of your life. To find a program near you, visit swingfit.com.au.
Hi, this is Aaron Price, and October is Golf Month. Golf Month is the perfect time to share with your family and friends, so get out there this October and have a go.
Well, Golf Month's only a few weeks away. It's in October. We've got a handful of things going on this week. We launched our first video as part of the promotional series. I urge everyone to go onto golfmonth.com.au or via the Golf Australia website directly check it out, share it with your mates. It's really good. Some quality stuff coming up. That's the first one of 3 or 4, I believe. I'm not 100% sure there, but they're really good, worth watching, even if you're not interested in Golf Month, which of course you would be, Andy.
Oh, no doubt about that. Everybody in Australian golf should be interested in it.
Well, they absolutely should. The big one, of course, is the prize, one of 4 ultimate golf bug adventures to Barnbugle, Cape Wickham and Ocean Dunes, thanks to Air Adventure Golf Tours. That I looked at the details of that the other day. That is magnificent. What a trip that is. Once in a lifetime.
Yeah. We're not getting any love from the principals down there who need to be listening to our pleas.
Biz Sattler, she's going to come on soon.
Where's Busy? Yeah, get her on.
Yeah,
we should get Richard on. Richard's one of the most significant people in Australian golf ever, I think.
Yeah.
We might
building 2 top 50 in the world public courses that everyone can play when it was a massive financial risk.
That'd be a good story to tell.
He knew nothing about golf, and he done an incredible thing and Duncan Andrews at Cape Wickham too.
He can be your homework next time you come on. If
Richard
you
Sattler?
Get Richard, yeah.
I'll get Richard on.
Wasn't without its personal controversies on the way through. Yeah.
But, and I know that having one of the people who kind of talked him into it, not the main one, Mike Kaiser was the main one who did Banner Dunes, but, it was we could have been the greatest con man in the world for all he knew.
Yes.
He stumped up a lot of money and took a massive risk.
I wouldn't trust you as far as I could kick you.
So in terms of people who've done things for Australian golf, Richard Sattler's way up there.
No doubt.
And just one more thing on that, Andy. Just if you want to enter that competition for that once-in-a-lifetime experience, all you got to do is tell us in 150 words or less who you're going to share the golf bug with this October and how you're going to do it, and do it at golfmonth.com.au. And I still urge people to get your local club and facility involved. Make sure that everyone you know around you gets the taste of golf in October.
There you go. Now, people have been waiting for this, the second instalment of Ask Us Anything. I think we're going to have to do this more regularly, Hazy, because it is catching on. So we've asked you to ask, well, when I say ask, it's really not you or me, it's ask Mike Clayton questions about the game we love the most. I believe we're going live on Facebook, are we? Is that what we're doing? In 2 seconds, in 1 second, I believe we are now live on Facebook. Is that right, Gio? We are. Hello, everybody who's watching Inside the Ropes. Lovely to have you with us.
If I get one clip from anyone about fashion today, Andy, it's game on.
No. I have got
seriously. I'm sitting here over you.
I've got my New England Patriots.
I played with Brad Clifton the other day too. He had another slap at you.
Did he really?
Yeah,
he's unbelievable.
He can hit it.
Can he?
I don't know where it's going, but he can hit it.
So there's a lot of people who want to ask questions, Clates, to you, principally again. And Hazy and I'll just fire them to you at will. So, Hazy, do you want to go first? You can have your pick of the crop, whichever one you want to go first.
Let's start at the top. Gene Moole, I hope that's pronounced correctly, Gene. I apologise, but we'll go with Gene Moole from Melbourne. Clates, for anyone interested in learning and understanding great course architecture, what are the best few books you should read?
The best few? Well, there's a lot. I've got a list here. The best old book is probably The Spirit of St Andrews by Alistair Mackenzie, which was, he wrote Golf Architecture in 1920 and then wrote that in 1932, and it got the manuscript was lost. It was they found it in 1995 and printed it. So it goes on from what he wrote in 1920. So The Spirit of St Andrews, Doak's new book, The Anatomy of, not new book, but modern book, The Anatomy of a Golf Course. Jeff Shackelford wrote the same sort of book, Grounds for Golf. Old book, Robert Hunter, The Links. Great old book, 1925 or 6, who was Mackenzie's partner in America.
Has it changed much, Clates?
No, they all say the same things.
They're all right.
They're all saying the same things.
Yep.
Tom Doak's just put a new book out. It's a take on Chairman Mao's Little Red Book and Harvey Pennock's Little Red Book. Tom Doak's Little Red Book.
Is it?
Which is a collection of just kind of paragraph-long or page-long thoughts on golf course design that they've collected over the years. The last line in the book is a great
Doak's
one.
Little Red Book, did you say?
Little Red Book. It's everything you need to know about golf course design is in Scotland, which is kind of true. So a guy called Brad Klein's written some good books. Rough Meditations is really good. Anything by Jeff Shackelford's good. So there's a bunch of stuff out there that's really...
You might need to put a new rack in your library shelf because there's about 15 books and potentially a whole lot more that you
But if you were going to read two, you would read The Spirit of St Andrews and The Anatomy of a Golf Course.
Righto. Darren Blenkinsop, who is a regular, I think he's the maybe the only two-time correspondent and contributor to Ask Us Anything. I remember Darren had one the first time round. to you, Clates. I've heard Bradley Hughes say the club should feel like it's travelling its quickest, about 3 feet past the ball. Can you explain or discuss this, please?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't know whether it's... Well, Hughesy's got some good ideas about the swing. His Twitter and Instagram stuff is really good, and he's got videotapes of every great player.
Yeah.
Really good. But you would need him to explain it. So we should get him on and have him explain it. So
did you have any, when you were at your peak, did you have any kind of principles about, the acceleration into the ball, finishing the stroke? Did you have anything that you, as part of your kind of swing thought, you focused on in terms of
Not
when
really,
the club
but
should be going at its hardest?
No, but I think a good thought was to let the ball get in the way of the club, which was something Ken Venturi spoke about. In fact, Hughesy put it up on his Instagram thing last week, I think, was let the ball get in the road of the club. That made sense to me.
Could it be to do just with acceleration?
Letting the ball get in the road of the club?
No.
Or the club feeling like it's going as fast as 3 feet after the ball?
That one.
I don't know.
Okay.
You would need to talk to someone who knew about the
technicalities
of the swing better than I do, so we should get Hughesy on because he's interesting in.
All right, Darren, that's our homework.
Yeah, I'll get
Brad Hughes on in the
In fact, trivia question, one thing I found out this week, George Nudson's swing was up there. George Nudson's son, Dean Nudson, works in Canberra in the Department of the Environment. He's about third in charge of, he's about 2 steps below Josh Frydenberg, who I wonder if he even knows how famous Dean Nudson, who works in the Department of the Environment in Canberra.
We need to have a word to Josh Frydenberg about a few things.
His father was,
at the moment.
Who was a runner-up in the US Masters 8-time winner on the US Tour.
Well, there you go.
So his son lives in Canberra, works in the bureaucracy in Canberra. There you go.
Jeremy, hair loss clinic too.
Oh, we just need to get his views on a few
straightened out
social matters broadened a little bit. Josh Frydenberg, just for the good of Australia. But anyway, that's got nothing to do with golf.
No. Different podcast.
Exactly. Over to you.
I think you should ask me the next one.
Should I? Right. I should. It's from Graham Voss. No relation to the famous Vosses, I don't think. Mark, when will the Australian Open return to a rotational basis and allow the other major cities the chance to stage the event?
Well, it's a really good question, Graham, and I think from the theoretical perspective, that's definitely the way Golf Australia would love that to roll. 2016 was the first of 8-year contract in Sydney. In that time, there's clauses for 2 out years for it to go to other states. Look, primarily that's a commercial decision based on the naming rights sponsor, which Emirates has been absolutely magnificent in the last few years, and I think they've deserved their right to be able to have a say in it. There's no doubt there's a groundswell. I'm sure Clates on my left here would agree that it should be at different clubs and not be too far out of the sandbelt too often. But definitely should rotate around Australia. There's no doubt about that, and I agree, Graham, but there's sort of commercial imperatives that have come first in this instance, and it's important for the tournament's future. So we sympathise and hear what you're saying.
The Sandbelt region of Victoria, I know I'm speaking to preaching to converted here, but if you're going to, as we do with the tennis, as we spoke about before, we have Melbourne plastered all over the back of the tennis court to let people know that's where it is. If we're going to bring golf to Australia and have meaningful tournaments anywhere, surely they get played on the Sandbelt in Victoria more often than not, don't they? Isn't that what we want to be sending out to the world? Isn't that?
Well, the President's Cup's in 2 years. Great event.
To wait a long time for.
I think that there'll be something coming here that I think will be really good. It's one of those hold fire and wait till they announce it. But the Vic Open's a great event.
Great event.
That's a tremendous event. But I think Melbourne ought to have a pretty big tournament every year. I think everyone would kind of agree with that.
But yeah, I agree, Graham. Though we do want that to happen. As if I can speak for Golf Australia, it's not something that let's take it to Sydney and bury it there forever. That's not what we want to do. It's been a great host there. Some ripping clubs around. They haven't got the prestige, the international prestige of the Sandbelt courses, but the Australian. There's nothing wrong with the Australian plates.
And the Lakes next year. The economics, when I was a kid, it went around the country. I remember the Qantas Australian Open at Kingston Heath, and Gary Player played, but that was when they played for $25,000 and Gary Player was here because he had a contract with Slazengers. Yeah. I don't know how much appearance money he got. He got $3,000 for winning, but I'm not sure what his appearance money was, but I'm sure it wasn't relative to, I'm guessing, the $1 million Jordan Spieth's getting this year.
You?
I want to ask Clates now, Mike, what's not attracting the big-name US Tour players from coming to Australia in November and December? I know Jordan Spieth is further to David Fawcett's question here from Sydney. I know Jordan Spieth enjoys his time here, so why doesn't Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, Zach Johnson, etc. come? Surely it can't be low appearance money.
Wouldn't cross the road to see Zach Johnson.
Well, it's how much they cost. I mean, they would all come if you paid them all. But we know how much they cost, roughly.
How much would it cost to get Zach Johnson away from his Thanksgiving turkey?
Yeah, well, I mean, with all greatest respect to Zach Johnson, you wouldn't pay Zach Johnson that much money to have him play the Australian Open. But Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka, but those guys play a long year. And to them, Americans, Australians indistinguishable from Ecuador or Venezuela, probably. Just a long way away. And why would I bother going down? What's winning the Australian Open going to do for my career?
That's the truth, isn't it? That's what it
means. So why would I go down there when I can sit at home and luxuriate on my boat in Florida or my pool or my...
And Jordan Spieth's not out. We love having Spieth down here. He clearly likes coming down here, and the money's good, but he wouldn't be doing it. He's not doing it for the money because he's got bucket loads of the stuff. He clearly enjoys coming down here and playing the courses and the tournaments. But Jordan Spieth's not going back to America saying to, Justin Thomas, hey, mate, you've got to come down to Australia with the next year. Whatever you do, you've got to come down. He's not doing that, is he? I mean... And you'd like to think he is, but if he is doing it, he's not doing a very good job.
I think Jeff Ogilvy actually said a few weeks ago that he is actually a really good locker room ambassador for it.
Well,
I don't think he's had much success in bringing down the big names, but I just purely think it's a money thing, I think that the season we talked about the NFL earlier, running roughshod over this week's schedule. Well, there's a simple solution to this, and it's actually shorten the season in the States. And then if they finish in August, as we hope maybe they will one day soon, then you've got 5 or 6 months until they go back there. And I can't see that happening.
That's not happening.
No. So, if they do that, then they need to go and play somewhere. And that might be a solution because I can't see us ever having the capacity to shell out, $500,000 for this player and $800,000 for that player. It's just not going to happen. And that's what it's going to need to get them down here.
And I know not many people will probably see it this way, but the reality is the best field of the year in Australian golf is the Australian Women's Open. In terms of world-class players.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
If you want to watch world-class players, go and watch the Open in Adelaide. I mean, it's a great field in Adelaide.
Steve Tibb wanted to know about the President's Cup captain's picks. They're in. We've already spoken about those. Matt Levy, can the PGA put a total ban on green maps?
They need to because it's going to slow up play and it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just watching guys read putts out of their book is just madness.
Only players allowed on greens should be the players.
No, caddies, you need occasionally to hold the pin and clean the ball, but
other than that,
no, green maps need to go. Absolutely need to go, and I think they will get rid of them because they just.
Can you believe that guy's standing over a 3-foot putt, researching it on a book with arrows?
No,
it's a joke.
It's a joke.
Does Spieth use them?
Yep.
He does.
Well, I saw him looking at his book on the 17th green last week.
Absolutely.
So I assume he does. But I mean, they can tell. The guys who pay $500 for a book, I think, can tell every single, they get the pin placement. They can tell every putt how much percentage of, where to aim it, where all the straight putts are. And I mean, there's got to be some skill in reading a green.
Oh, yeah.
So that needs to be smashed on the head.
Are they hard to use? I've never even. Are they
depends if you can read a contour map or not.
Right, okay, yeah.
Depends how hard you studied at school, I suppose.
Not very.
You would have been a good orienteer, Andy.
Oh, yeah, right up my alley.
There's a really good question here, Clates, I reckon, from Pack on Twitter.
Yep.
What's the most fun length golf hole?
I reckon you can find a fun hole every yard from 100 yards to 600 yards. But the most fun length, I think everyone loves short par threes. I think the 7th at Barnbougle is a pretty cool par 3 at 112 metres.
340-metre par 4s. Yeah.
Well, I think 300 yards is... I mean, I look at the holes I love to play. 10 at Royal Melbourne, 15 at Victoria, 4 at Barnbougle. Great fun. What do I do? 3rd at Kingston Heath. What do I do here?
Yeah.
They're lots of... The holes, the most interesting lengths are the holes that ask the most interesting questions. So it's the kind of almost drivable short par 4 with great strategy. The
7 South Peninsula.
Yeah, good little hole.
Great hole.
Yeah, great hole.
Great hole. You see the big players, they stand and when there's, what it's like, give them options. Don't tell them where to hit it.
Yeah.
Off the tee,
Figure it out.
Great,
I think 13 Augusta might be the best hole in the world, one of them. You know, with great drive, you've got to hit a great drive into the right place, and then do you go across the creek? Where do you lay it up? So that hole asks
does that hole need to be lengthened?
No, well, yeah, it does because it doesn't play the way it was meant to play.
Yep.
No, the ball needs to be shortened.
Oh, sorry, yes.
So
thank God, hallelujah. I thought we were heading towards an entire podcast because we've already got bifurcation in.
Those playing the drinking game.
Yeah, that's right.
The road hole at St Andrews and the 13th hole at Augusta, which are both pretty similar lengths. They're arguably two of the best holes in the world. Well, arguably the two best holes in the world.
Yeah. Duncan Booth in Brisbane. Clubs and membership styles haven't changed in decades. I'm 30, young family, good income, love golf. But membership in traditional format makes no sense to me, let alone my kids. Time is precious to most. 6 hours a Saturday doesn't work. Thoughts, solution? Either of you?
I know there's a lot of work going into this behind the scenes. And clubs can be their own worst enemies here. But they also have the chance to take the whole game, the sport, into a new future.
Yep.
So, I mean, if your clubs are willing to break the mould and, risk ruffling a few feathers of the traditionalists within them, then I think the world's your oyster here. There's so many expansive membership opportunities happening now that weren't available 7 or 8, 9 years ago. And I think it's incumbent on you to go and ask your club, to be honest. If you've got a club in mind, and I'm not talking about the real old fuddy-duddy ones, I'm talking about the ones that might be struggling a little bit, Clates. Just go and give them a nudge and say, I would love to join if I could ...
Tricky. Melbourne's lucky that it's got the dunes and St Andrews Beach and great public courses. We're really world-class public courses like that, not that far away. Brisbane's, I suspect, is not so lucky. Royal Queensland get the land back on the other side of the bridge. Well, they've got it back now. They rebuilt the course because they lost the holes under the bridge. And there's a proposal we've done to put in a reversible 9-hole course. And whether they do it or not is a different question. Hopefully they do. One of the debates is: do you make it public? Do you make it public? Do you make it accessible to the public, or do you just keep it as a part of Royal Queensland? But that would be a great venue for public players.
Oh, yeah.
All these questions are coming off Twitter, by the way, but as we are live on Facebook, we're getting some questions coming through from our live Facebook audience. Brad Clifton, again, welcome. Mark Hayes, do you realise your outfit matches your head? That's coming from Brad Clifton.
Hi, Brad. Hi, Brad.
A lot of people sending questions through about your personal grooming here, Hazy. I'm trying. Okay. Julie Hooker. I'm going to the PGA for the second time. Really excited to see Adam and Sergio. Do you think Jason might play as well, seeing he's here for the Open? Any heads up on what Dave's plans are when he's down here?
Yeah, no. I think you can stick a fork in that one. I'm sorry.
Wayne Miller. Are we ever likely to see Greg Norman play in Australia again? Isn't it? No, he won't, will he? No. With his clothes on.
Sadly, both. Day not playing in Queensland and Greg not playing. I mean, one of the great things when I was starting out was Kel Nagle still playing. Kel was 60 and could still really play. Mm. And watching him play and playing with him was great fun.
I saw a video of Shark hitting the other day. He still flushes it.
Yeah, he just doesn't like golf. Kel loved golf. I don't think Greg likes it anymore. So no, we're not going to see.
Did he seriously? Did he have a shirt on when he was?
I think he had to rush and put one on just for the clinic. But yeah, no.
Hazy, there's Clyde says an agronomy question for you from Matt Holding. LKCC, that Lake Karrinyup Country Club, right? Yep. Is across the road from his house, has been renovating their greens. As part of this, they lay a silver mat over the greens and only take it off every few weeks. How does the grass grow under this mat? Also, how quickly is the new surface playable after a renovation?
Well, I know they had a great strike with it. So I saw, in fact, Lindsay Stevens sent me a picture of it yesterday. So they've had a great strike. So laying the mat over it, believe it or not, helps it grow. For technical reasons, I should understand, but I don't.
You don't, yep.
But what was the second part of the question?
How quickly is it playable after it's gone through that process?
16 weeks, normally.
16 weeks, yeah, right. Yeah. Yep. What have been the best new greens that you've ever seen laid? Like, come to hand? Have you seen a club somewhere that you've worked on or you've seen, and they've redone the greens? Because there's always a bit of that process after new greens have been put down where they're not quite right, but where there's a club that's had an unbelievably good
strike?
Yeah, with their new greens.
Yeah, aside from Peninsula?
Yeah, well, they're amazing.
Yeah, they're incredible. Yeah, they are. Yeah. The trick is to ensure that they're good in 10 years' time.
Yeah, right.
And they're all good when they're sown.
Yeah, right.
Are they going to be any good? So I think best greens week in, week out are the Mooner course at the National. They're always fantastic down there. Brilliant. In fact, that's, I would argue, the best conditioned mainland course in Australia all year because they've got the mix of the Cooch and the Fescue and the Poa on the fairways, which play beautifully all year.
When's Doug starting at the National? When's that going to happen?
Soon, I think.
Yeah, okay, great.
Which would be good.
Yeah. Hazy.
What about the Brisbane Golf Club, Clates? When they changed grass a couple of years ago, when it's part of their big, new coming out party. Yeah. How do you think that when they changed what's traditionally been a tropical Queensland sort of a grass to something completely different?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. Not sure. But at Royal Queensland, we used the old blue Cooch fairways, which are really good. I mean, I think there's an overemphasis on condition, as in the perfection of the lies.
Oh, absolutely.
People think that a perfect fairway is a fairway with every lie's perfect, but there are plenty of perfect fairways in the world where the lies aren't perfect. But here that we get obsessed with the carpet-like appearance of the best fairways in the country, well, the best conditioned fairways in the country, when I think Barnboogle's the best turf to hit off. They're not the best fairways in terms of if you want a carpet. They're not a carpet, but it's the best turf to hit off. And that's much more important than perfect turf.
That's the whole American.
Perfect fairways, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Well, while we're down in Tasmania, Andy, there was a question that came to us via Rodney Heron.
Good player, Rodney Heron. For
our top 5 courses in Tasmania, excluding Barnbougle and Lost Farm, Clates. I've done a bit of research on this. I spent a bit of time in Tassie.
Okay. Well, I haven't played that much in Tasmania. I've played, I would say, Royal Hobart, Tasmania. The obvious ones, Kingston Beach, Wood Rising in Devonport, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Launceston. What's Launceston like? I think we played Ian Roberts won the Tasmanian Open, beat Ian Baker Finch in 1985 by a shot, which was a okay course.
You could have worked that into a trivia question if you were fair.
An okay course.
Yep.
I'm going to throw a couple into the mix. I think Tasmania's got some of the quirkiest little golf courses going around. Tasmania's probably the one that's, aside from the two we already had, that's probably the standout one to me. But there's a couple of courses there I'm sure you'll know about, Clates. Ratho Farm.
Never been there.
That's the oldest golf course in Australia, Andy.
Really?
Did you know that?
Supposedly, I did not know that.
Yeah. Near Little Bothwell, almost central Tasmania.
Okay.
Absolutely fantastic. It's got some fences around the greens to keep the sheep off. Just brilliant little links course. Fantastic.
Great. What's it called?
Ratho Farm.
Ratho Farm.
I strongly encourage any golf fans around the country to get down there. And in the same sort of neck of the woods, a little bit further north, so on the road, I think probably from Launceston out towards Deloraine, is a place called Quamby Estate. Again, just a little 9-hole course, very picturesque, different layout entirely, but also a really good one. And an absolute cracking course called Tasman Golf Club right down near Port Arthur. South of Port Arthur, would you believe?
Okay, right, perfect.
I was in Evandale the other day, a couple of weeks ago, staying with some friends, and we drove past the Evandale Golf Course. We looked kind of inventive. I mean, the great thing about golf in Australia, it's inventive. They're playing the Victorian Sand Greens Championship this week at Wedderburn.
Right.
Which shows Australian golf on sand, shows how inventive golfers can be. If they want to play golf, they can play it anywhere.
We better get a wriggle on here. Jared off Twitter. If the Players was ever officially a major, how does it reflect on Norman's stature finishing on 3 majors equal with Elk? From Jared. It's not going to happen though, is it?
No, it's not happening. But underrated player, Elkington. Well, is he underrated, Steve Elkington?
Probably.
Shouldn't be underrated.
Probably is, yeah. Probably is.
Like he's
better
than Pat Cash by a long way. Pat Cash was good, but Elkington was better.
There you go.
I've got Tennis Australia on the phone here, Clates. They're not happy with you today, mate.
It's all right.
Hazy.
On one from Matthew Oakley, Clates. Commonwealth Golf Club wants to be a top 10 course in 2021. On a day when the world rankings have come out here. Is it possible? Why not? And how would they get there?
Tricky question, given where they're architects. But it's... Well, the problem is I'm going to say something that's going to upset somebody, so I just won't say it.
Don't say it, yeah.
You look at... I've written down the top 10 courses, in my opinion, in Australia. Royal Melbourne, Kingston... Not in no particular order.
Okay.
Except the best ones at the top. Royal Melbourne, Kingston Heath, Barnbougle, Lost Farm, Cape Wickham, Elliston, Royal Melbourne, East Course, New South Wales probably, Royal Adelaide, and you've got Alice. You've got the chunk of Metro, Lake Karen up the lakes, 13th Beach, Norman's course at the Nationals in the top 10. So if you're a Commonwealth, if you're on the committee, you need to look at those courses and study why there's a consensus that sees those courses ranked above Commonwealth and why they're ranked above them. And I've got my opinions on why I think they're ranked above them, but, I'll make one point. The first hole is not one of the better short par fours in Australia, and if they wanted to be in the top 10, that needs to be a hole that matches the quality of the best short par fours.
Well, they had it. They had.
Well, they did.
They did. Do you ever play the original opening hole?
They did. It was a beautiful hole, and if you want to be in the top 10 in the country, you need to make more of the first and the 10th holes as a start.
Okay, that's really interesting.
But there are some great holes at Commonwealth. I mean, Commonwealth's got you look at 16's the best water hole in the world, arguably.
It's a great hole.
Two of the great par threes, 15 and 9. The 8's a tremendous hole. There's lots of great stuff at Commonwealth, but there's some stuff that was altered in the 80s that detracted from what was, in my opinion, and I wrote it in the paper, that arguably there was nothing to distinguish when I was a kid Kingston Heath from Commonwealth. And one of those courses is now indisputably in the top. Well, it just got ranked 20 in the world, Kingston Heath, and indisputably in the top 4 in the country, and one of them's not. And the answer to the question is partly is what happened. Why was there such a divergence from 1983 to 2017?
You clearly know the answer.
Well, I've got my opinions, but I'll upset people if I expand any more on that.
Isn't it amazing how much Clayton said there without actually
wanting to say anything? Exactly. And to that point about golf course ranking, John Huggan has sent through a tweet.
Oh, Huggy sent a tweet.
Yeah.
Good.
Few things in golf are more annoying yet addictive than course ranking lists. Have yet to see one that did not see me shaking my head. Do you find them? I'll start with you first, Clates. Do you find them more annoying or addictive?
Both. They're annoying in the sense that you see, in my opinion, I see clear mistakes of like, how the hell does anyone think that course is better than that course? And I know Huggy sort of banged on that tweet, I think attached Pebble Beach above Muirfield, which is a pretty fair point he's making there. And Royal Melbourne, I think, was rated 11 in the world, which is still a pretty staggering achievement, but no one will convince me that Augusta National is a better golf course than Royal Melbourne. In fact, Tom Doak had the best quote about the two when he said, Royal Melbourne is the course Augusta wants to be. And being 11 in the world it's a pretty awesome place.
Is there one tome that when they do it, because they all have a crack at it, everyone has a crack at the rankings, is there one that routinely gets it better or closer than any other?
Well, the one that came out today, the Golf Magazine list, is generally accepted as being the most accurate. But I'm on that panel, but I look at that list today and think, well, it's there are some things in there that I shake my head at. But there are fewer things in there that I shake my head at than there are in other lists. Peter Thompson, as usual, had the best quote about the list. He said, never seen one I agreed with.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's the inevitability of lists and long panels and the fact that people don't see all the courses.
Forget the qualities that make up the courses that are on those lists, Andy. People's perception of what makes a good course
is exactly right.
Necessarily different. Like what I see as an awesome, fun course, like Ratho Farm, that's never going to get on a list. As long as Tassie's closer to Antarctica than we are here, but it's never. You can't get a definitive answer that's going to appease everyone. So it's very hard work. My thing with lists is I try and play as many of the courses as you humanly can, because I just think if there are 75 in Australia, it must have something good going for it.
Yeah.
My problem with them is that people often rate the experience of playing a golf course versus the architecture. So Pebble Beach, as awesome as playing Muirfield with Huggan at 6:30 on a summer's night is, the experience of playing Pebble Beach at the same time is probably even more awesome.
Just because of where you are.
But if you're measuring the architecture, then Muirfield's a better golf course than I think it's a better golf course than Pebble Beach.
Nothing to do with playing with Huggy.
Well, Huggy's and the sickening knee-high fizzes. No, but lists are what they are, and they sell magazines, and the problem is people attach too much importance to them.
Last one, and this is a good question, and a lot of people will take something from your answer. I reckon. Alex Houston, before we wrap this up and say goodbye, are premium golf balls worth it for mid to high handicappers?
Probably not. I haven't played with anything other than a Titleist for. Although I bought 2 dozen TaylorMades the other day from the MGA from Benji. I bought. Yeah, he gave me $45 a dozen. It was very kind of
nice.
Just to try them out. So I've never played with anything since I was 16 with anything other than a first grade ball. So I don't really know, but I suspect that the average golf ball that costs half what a Pro V1 costs is probably pretty good for the average player.
And you and I wouldn't. If we're going to play a proper game of golf, Hazy, we're going to play on a good course, and we're going to try. We want to play a tour ball, don't we? We do. Are you a bit of a golf ball snob?
No, not really.
Oh, okay, right.
I think most people will gravitate towards a Pro V1 or whatever it is, but the manufacturer of their choice. But I'm personally not a snob. But I've in researching this bifurcation thing that we keep rubbishing on about, or I think what I've learned is, to get the full benefits of the premium ball, you have to have a swing speed over 105, 110 miles an hour, and that's no one that Jason's talking about there.
So what we're going to do when we go and play at Peninsula, because we keep threatening to go and play there, we never do. So you'll remember that.
Yep.
I'm going to go and get a bunch of $3 golf balls and play them and see what they're like.
Yeah.
I'm sure I probably can't tell the difference.
No. That's great. We'll do this again. I think it's a really good thing to do. I enjoy it. We've gone way over time again.
One last question here from John in South Melbourne. Is there any danger we'll get this done in under an hour, Andy?
No chance. Sorry, mate. I listened to Sam Harris do a podcast yesterday with a climate change bloke. Went for 2 hours. It was the best listening.
Of course.
It was just 2 hours. I couldn't wait to get back in the car and have another half hour of it.
There you go. That's
so
what
2 hours is no way. It wasn't enough, and it was 2 hours of brilliant argument as to why we better take it seriously.
What was the name of the podcast?
Sam Harris's podcast.
Okay, I'll find it. I'll find it.
It's brilliant.
Great.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Just amazing.
Goodbye to everyone on Facebook Live. See you.
I don't think your wardrobe matches your head at all, Hazy.
I think you look good, Hazy.
Yeah, so do I.
And Brad Clifton has no idea where the ball's going. So, although he almost carried the lake at the 17th, the lake's off the back tee on. Whenever we played.
Did he?
Golf Digest a couple of weeks ago at the 17th at the Lakes. He almost got it over from the back, which was...
That's a solid strike.
That's a good hit.
It was very impressive.
Yeah. Clates, it's always fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Andy.
Hazy, see you next week.
Good on you, Murray.
Friend, that's it for Inside the Ropes. Episode 16. We'll see you when we do number 17.